I'm Olivia Clement.
Oh, and I'm Walter Lyle.
And I'm Isaac Sims, and this is Flyover Film Country. Whoop whoop. We cover the film and TV media and focus on stories set in places oft forgotten by Hollywood. Today we're discussing Tim Burton's legacy sequel, Beetlejuice, almost a 40-year sequel. I don't know if y'all knew that. And Walter's get on his little soapbox and tell us about the Netflix disaster hit Uglies, which I'm very excited to hear about. So
I wouldn't use the word disaster, but I am excited to talk about it.
I can't wait to hear about it.
A 1.5 on the Letterboxd is to me a disaster. Critically speaking.
We'll get to it.
You don't actually like it, do you?
We'll get to it, Isaac.
Just be patient, man.
All right, Olivia, ask me if I'm a ghost.
Isaac, are you a ghost?
I'm a ghost with the most, baby.
I'm going to assume that's a Beetlejuice thing. I haven't seen the old one or the new one.
Hey, Walter, ask me what my qualifications are.
Isaac, what are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague and had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it, not to mention the fact you're talking to a dead guy. And now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Walter, were you not there when we watched Beetlejuice
No.
with the catty bitches?
Mm-mm.
Olivia, did you know that's choking on your drink?
There were a few nicknames for that movie group.
We had a couple nicknames. Catty bitches was the funniest.
Yeah.
I think.
That's
what I would.
One of them was just
for.
the ass hats. I don't know how that.
Oh
one
yeah, I
started.
forgot about the ass hats. That's
Yeah.
I think that's what I knew it as. But Catty
Yep.
Bitches is that's I think my favorite one.
Yep. Anyway, we watched Beetlejuice together one night, and I haven't seen it since then. But I really like Beetlejuice. So yeah. Should we just jump in? Should we just do it?
That's what we're gonna try to do. Yeah,
Get right to it.
that's the goal.
Cool. Well, should we do Beetlejuice or Uglies first?
Well,
Dealer's choice.
did we want to do questions?
Oh yeah. Look at me not going off the agenda that I made.
That you made.
I know.
On the steel wall that he made.
Kyle says, "Do we think Wicked will spend all their money on award campaigns for Cynthia and Ari?" So that's Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who are playing Elphaba and
Alphaba.
Elphaba and
Alphaba.
Glinda.
There you go.
Glinda with an I.
Oh my god.
Glinda.
Okay, so I see I'm
Gwanda.
upset. Gwanda?
Gwanda.
I see I'm
My
upset.
name is
Olivia.
Gwanda.
Gwanda.
That could be a great segue to talking about a much better movie if that's what we were doing.
It would be.
But we're not doing that.
Unfortunately, we're not talking about that tonight.
Unfortunately, we're talking about right now Wicked.
Do you want to take this, Olivia? I'm not a wicked boy.
Here's the deal. You're
He's
not a wicked boy. He's a good boy. He's
I'm
a
a good
bad
boy.
boy. No, sorry. I'm sorry I said that. Anyway, here's the deal. I don't think that this movie is going to be good. They're not marketing it as a part 1 and part 2, which is really weird to me because that's what they're doing. That's how they filmed it.
They're doing it.
Wait,
Because
They're
Dune
doing
didn't do
it.
that either.
But it makes more sense for Dune to be like that.
they're doing a part 1 and 2?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is news to me. Of course,
And-
I'm the resident musical hater, so
Sure.
I don't. Yeah, of
I
course.
think
wouldn't
you
know.
and Isaac try to fight for that title.
Isaac, I thought you liked musicals.
He doesn't really like musicals, right?
I don't really no.
Okay.
Continue with your thoughts.
Okay, sorry, Olivia.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So I think it's weird. I don't think that they're going to be nominated. Wicked will probably spend all their money trying to get them nominated. The Ariana Grande stans are going to be pissed that Cynthia is going to be nominated for campaign to be the lead actress instead of supporting. But Glinda is a supporting character. The story is about Elphaba. So they probably will spend all their money on it because they're definitely not spending it on CGI or visual effects because it
All
looks
right.
bad. Am I right? Got him.
Do you like the
Um,
musical? Have you seen it?
I've never seen the musical. I've listened to the soundtrack and I really like the soundtrack, but from what I have seen and heard from all the people I know who have like actually seen the musical and from what I've read online, the musical is a great really like a really strong first act, and then the second act it's not as great. Like the big song that everyone knows from it is the end of the first act, Defying Gravity. That's how they end act one, and so after that kind of just it doesn't fall apart, but I think most people kind of it loses steam, I think, a little bit. And so it's weird to me that they're going to break this movie up into two different parts because of that. And I read that the runtime for this movie is supposed to be longer than the runtime for the musical, which doesn't make sense. I
That
know that
sounds
they're
awful.
adding, yeah, they're adding more from the book that it's based on
You
to
mean Wizard of Oz?
no, there's actually a book. I don't know if it's called Wicked, but there's actually a book that the musical is based on.
How do you do
Because
a
it,
musical in a book? You just have
how
to
do you do?
imagine what the songs sound like.
This is a
I
40-minute
mean,
podcast. We can't discuss all the
yeah. How
intricacies of
did
the
how did
adaptation.
Lin-Manuel Miranda read Hamilton's biography and create a musical? I mean, people are very creative. I don't know why you're asking that question.
I was just kidding.
Anyway,
That's why.
Kyle, yes, I do think they're going to spend all their money on that. Moving on to Beetlejuice, which has a musical number in it. See how I segued that? I did
Oh,
it really
nice.
effortlessly.
Really good.
So thank you.
Oh, it was good.
So Beetlejuice. Where do we want to start, boys? And by boys, I mostly mean Isaac because Walter
Because
hasn't seen it yet.
I'm unfamiliar with this IP.
Also, I just want to say, like, I don't like musicals per se, but I think that I would say that Walter is a little bit less open to them than I am.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
a certified country fried hater. Like I have zero tolerance for musicals.
Yeah. It has to be the right thing
like
for
West Side
me,
Story.
like West Side Story. Like I really love Phantom of the Opera.
I don't know if I knew that.
Well, okay, I don't okay, that was an exaggeration. I love Music of the Night.
Okay.
Like that number truly moves my soul.
Mhm.
Like we
Really
played it
sweet.
for Sophie and me and Jess were singing it on Saturday when we were having lunch, I think. And it was a great time. It was awesome. But like I think that musicals for me have this thing baked in where my mom was like, "Hey, I got these musicals from the library. We're gonna watch Phantom of the Opera." I've talked about this too with like rom coms, with like Pride and Prejudice, which I've
A classic
reclaimed,
rom com.
and I think I love it. Well, I mean, it is to I would say it is in general, but um, musicals have this thing baked in for me where I'm like, I will never go see Wicked because it was played to no end. I will go see Phantom of the Opera because I've kind of like I recognize it as like no, this is like a pretty impressive work. But Andrew Lloyd Webber also did Cats, so it's like it's the same thing. Like you know, not all Broadways are the same, not all musicals are the same, not all movies are the same. You just got to find kind of that niche. And I'm like, I would go see Book of Mormon, and that's like just a straight comedy, but it's also like it's a musical. So yeah, that's my little soapbox.
Did Beetlejuice get on a soapbox at any point in the movie?
He's standing on all sorts of stuff.
I feel like he stands on a lot of stuff. I don't know if a soapbox was one of them though.
Yeah,
He floats.
he does float. You know
So,
why? Because he's dead.
right.
Yep.
Was he dead the
I
whole
can't believe
time?
Walter. What'd you say?
Was he dead the whole time?
It's kind of like The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end, when Bruce Willis is dead,
You know, it's funny you say that because I mix up Bruce Willis and
Michael
Michael
Keaton.
Keaton all the time. I don't know why. Do they look alike? Really? I don't know if they do.
I don't.
A little bit.
I think they
Uh,
look.
they're
Nah, not
both
really.
like
Mm,
balding old white men.
yeah, and all white guys look the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can say that as a as a fellow white. I'm not balding, but I or old, but I am a fellow white man. We all look
You
the same.
are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We
So,
all look the same.
no, I think that's fair. I think that because I don't think Bruce Willis could ever play Batman, but I think he could play some sort of like weird zany character if Hollywood would have let him.
Mm.
And I don't know if they ever did. I think he was only really more of an action star, whereas like Michael Keaton did play, I mean, Beetlejuice is a crazy character.
Yep.
And they should have let him play crazy characters like that more often, but that's maybe for later in the pod.
When you think of Michael Keaton, what do you think of?
I think of Beetlejuice.
Walt, Walter.
Oh, sorry.
Me?
No, it was for both of y'all. I said Walter because Olivia answered.
I immediately answered.
Yeah, she may have said Beetlejuice. I think of Batman. But you know what? It's also a little bit equal Jack Frost.
Mm.
Because that was probably because I was a kid when I saw that. That was probably
Yeah.
the first like Michael Keaton movie I saw.
Did either of you ever see Mr. Mom?
Uh-uh.
Nope.
Okay, it's an earlier Michael Keaton movie. He still has hair in this movie,
Oh, nice.
so it's great. Anyway, Isaac, what's your answer?
I think it's Batman as well, but it's interesting, and I would encourage anyone who, well, yeah, no, I think it's Batman. I would encourage anyone who, I'm sure our conversation is going to be good and funny, but it's not going to be necessarily a deep dive into Michael Keaton or Beetlejuice, and both of, like, especially Beetlejuice is like a huge cultural footprint. Blank Check, their episode on Beetlejuice is incredible. It talked about Tim Burton's like kind of how this is a step forward for him because he has had a bunch of like flops recently, his last several movies. The Big Picture did a Michael Keaton Hall of Fame. His filmography is really weird. It's really, really weird, especially
Michael
because he
Keaton?
was like, yeah, because he was positioned to be like, he was a comedy guy. He got cast as Batman. Everybody was so mad. And then he kills it. And then he kills it in Batman Returns. And Batman Returns is so weird and dark. And Danny DeVito is like really gross as the Penguin. And that movie rules. I love it. But like people didn't like it. And Warner Brothers was like, we don't want to keep going in this direction. So they said like, we're going in a different direction. And Tim Burton was like, all right, I'm done. And then Michael Keaton was like, I don't want to do it if Tim's not doing it. And that's why they got Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher to do Forever. So he has this cool, my point is he has this cool sort of like, I'm done. I'm cool. And in real life, he is like this person who is like, I don't know, I'm going to go fly fish in Montana. And he really does live his life that way. But then he'll pop up years later and do Spotlight, which I think is like my favorite role of his. Like he is so good in Spotlight. Spotlight's perfect movie for me.
Is so good.
Anyway, that's my brief soapbox. Like I love Keaton, but I've only recently in the last like 5 years, I would say, like he's become one of my top 5 people, I would say. So
You should watch Mr. Mom. It's a good comedy, and it's like for the most part, it's pretty family friendly. It's like it is a Clement family staple for us. Like we watch it we watched it all the time growing up, and we quote it a lot actually still. So
nice.
anyway, but Beetlejuice. Let's talk about that. Where do we want to start?
I want to start with, it sounds like Beetlejuice is also a Clement family staple, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see it until a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to kind of talk about your family's
So for the Clement family, honestly, I watched it for the first time as an adult like 2 days before I went and saw Beetlejuice. And I didn't really remember hardly any of it except for the very end where Lydia Winona Ryder's character is like floating up. And that was the only thing I really remembered from like watching it as a kid. But it's something that like my parents love. I think it's probably one of their favorite movies, which is interesting because my parents have very different taste in movies. And so my dad watches a lot of like war movies and is all like he'll put on, Band of Brothers on a Sunday morning just casually and like as he's like playing, solitaire on his phone. Whereas my
Harry's
mom will
got range
watch
though,
he's
because he
got
like
range because
he'll
he
watch he'll
also
turn around and watch Pitch Perfect. You
that's
know,
so true. He has a wide range of tastes in movies. And my mom will watch, a rom-com or some sort of comedy that we've seen a lot of times. So it's really interesting to me whenever they have the same, like that Venn diagram crosses over because it's a weird collection of movies. And so Beetlejuice is for sure one of them. And yeah, it was just this weird movie that my parents really loved, and I didn't really remember a whole lot about it growing up, but I do know we watched it. And so I don't have like a family story attached to it necessarily, just knowing that it was something we watched a lot when I was growing up. Or like especially when I was little, like probably 5 or 6 and under, we watched it a lot.
hmm
But yeah, so you watched it for the first time as an adult. What was that like?
it was so that Beetlejuice is just it's like it's movie magic. It's
Hmm.
like you don't know where this story is going. You just know that you're entertained and laughing like most of the time,
Hmm.
even before he shows up. And he doesn't show up for like the first 40 minutes
Hmm.
of the original movie. And when he does, he comes out and he literally goes, "Blah." And that's not at all what I expected. And I just like lost my shit and I was like rolling on the floor. And then it's in that scene where he does the whole qualifications spiel, which apparently he ad libbed.
That's
Someone
not
fact
surprising to me.
someone fact checked me on that, but like that it's like so funny. So
Yeah.
um but then so my main takeaway, and this is kind of we can segue into what you think about the sequel compared to the original.
Hmm.
But I came away from Beetlejuice thinking like that was incredible,
Hmm.
but there's not enough Beetlejuice in it. Like
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
more gags, more
Well,
just
because
like him just like trolling on people.
yeah, because I
Almost
think
like
he's only in it for
yeah.
like less than 30 minutes of the movie.
Yep.
I don't think he's in it for a whole lot of screen. He doesn't have a whole lot of screen time.
Yeah. And he's like it's crazy. I think he's 74 or
Yes, he is.
75 now.
Yeah, he's
And he's
74.
playing the character again. And I don't know. So I feel like the sequel, the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty generous 5.5, 4.5 stars that I gave it. But it's still to me like a very good and successful movie. But had you like watched the first leading into the second or
Yeah, so I watched the first, like I said, 2 days before I went and saw the second one. And I think I am pretty much always this person where it's like the original is probably always the better one.
yeah, I would agree
I
with that.
do think that this is a really fantastic sequel though, because what happens a lot of the time, right, is when we get this huge gap in time, like nearly 40 years in time between the original and a sequel or follow up, it it almost is like, okay, what are we doing with this? Like it's a little nerve wracking of like, okay, is this actually gonna be good, or are we just doing this to you know make some money? And and what's the purpose of making the sequel at all? And so so I was a little hesitant going into it, even though I saw that it was getting like pretty positive reviews. I was like, okay, we'll see if it actually like lives up to it. And I didn't really read any reviews. I just saw like it was getting high reviews on as I was scrolling through social media and that kind of thing. I didn't want to read anyone's reviews on Letterboxd or anything like that, which Letterboxd reviews are not like actual real critics most of the time. It's just people who have opinions, which is great. Like I love using Letterboxd and I love seeing what people are writing about their movies, the movies they watch. But I try not to take that into account whenever I'm watching a movie. So so for me, this I felt like was a great sequel in the sense of like I feel like it stayed true to this like original source, and it seemed like they try to make it feel as much as they possibly could to the originals. Like it didn't feel like that much time had passed while you're
Mm-hmm.
watching it, you know. Like obviously it was a little more modern because it had to be, but I love that they didn't try to do make him a certain way or anything. They just kept him truly like Beetlejuice. Like there was no really changing his character, which I'm glad they didn't do that. So all in all for me, like I gave it 4 stars, and I think that's where I'm keeping it. I gave the original one 4 stars, and maybe I should give the original one 4.5 because I think it's a little bit better, but I don't know if it's that much better, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the cast. I mean, loved Jenna Ortega, and I think she did phenomenal in that role. Which she plays. I'm worried she's going to be almost like typecast as these like kind of goth emo girls, but I really liked her in this, and it seemed like the cast really liked her too. Like Winona Ryder, like sang her praises, which was cool. So yeah, I think for me, it comes down to it was I think a great tribute as of a sequel.
Yeah. They jokingly but kind of seriously said that Jenna Ortega kind of being born kind of
Hmm.
unlocked the sequel
Hmm.
because, and this is true, that one of the sequel ideas they had after the first Beetlejuice was such a big success was Beetlejuice in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And that would have been incredible. And then the second idea that they had as a script that was being like passed around for years was Beetlejuice in Love.
Hmm.
And you can kind of see when you watch this that they pulled like some elements from
Hmm.
that and then the stop motion and yeah, all that. So
Hmm.
what did you I think so is there anyone like you the newcomers that we have are like Justin Theroux, Willem Dafoe, and Monica Bellucci?
Hmm.
I kind of felt I thought Justin Theroux was really good. Like I
Hmm.
thought he was legitimately funny, and I
Hmm.
didn't expect him to be like that. Um, Monica Bellucci, Walter, is just going around sucking people like dead people's souls out to where they can't like uh they're like dead even from the afterlife.
Cool.
And it starts by Danny DeVito knocks over a box and she's dismembered and her different the different parts of her body like reassemble, and then she sucks Danny DeVito's soul out and he like this is all practical too. It's such a
Yeah.
funny image where like imagine she like picks Danny DeVito up by the throat, she sucks his soul out through his mouth, and then all of his clothes, kind of including his shoes, just like shrink up into like a neat palette and then falls on the
It's
ground.
so good.
She does that to like 6 people in the movie. And it's funny every time.
It's
That's
funny
good.
every time. It's funny every time because it's practical effects and it
Yes,
looks good.
it
Like
does.
it would have looked like trash if they had used CGI.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that was one of the things that he said, like, I'm only doing this if I get to do practical.
Hmm.
And I think they did like a little bit of either he took a pay cut or they did a budget cut or something like that so that he could
Hmm.
do it practical. Um, Beetlejuice gets introduced in the first one with like they finally the the Martins, is that the name of Alec Baldwin and
No,
Gina Davis?
the
They
Blatons.
they finally like summon him, and
Hmm.
it's like, all right, we finally get to see Beetlejuice. And in this one, they just do like a cold cut or like a hard cut to Beetlejuice, and he's running a help uh a call center, but
Yeah,
everyone's mouths are sewed shut.
because they look like the like shrunken heads or whatever. It's so
Yeah.
good. Um,
So yeah.
yeah, there's just I really appreciate the practical effects use because I mean, as we've talked about so many times with like a lot of the big budget movies, they're cutting corners by trying to use CGI and make it look, it always ends up looking cheap because they try to rush through it. Because you can see like there are obviously movies, big budget movies that use CGI that are very well made movies. Like I think the Avatar movies are an example of that, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously that's CGI, but it looks so good. But then, we can name any of the superhero movies that have come out in the past decade, and it's like, ooh, that doesn't look great.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think if we can, honestly, I would love for more directors to use practical effects. I think it just looks better most of the time. Not every time, and I realize some things can't be done with that, but I think for this, especially for this movie, because this movie is really it's zany, it's camp. Honestly, at the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's
it's
camp.
campy and silly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that really works to like practical effects works for that reason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you were naming the new actors. What were you? Did you ask me a question with all that?
Oh, I was gonna ask. I feel like the one person where I'm like, we could have taken him out and done some funnier stuff with other people is Willem Dafoe's character.
See, I really liked his character.
Yeah,
I
and it
was
wasn't like it was bad. I thought it was bad, but he was the person I laughed at the least. So I was like, I don't know.
sure. Excuse me. I really liked it. I guess yeah. If you took him out, he wasn't. I mean, because I don't know how much he added to the plot, but I love me some Willem Dafoe, and I love when
Me
he gets to
too.
play like a weird character, and his character was like it wasn't weird per se, but it was like kind of this hotshot former actor who still thinks he's an actor and really full of himself, and I don't feel like Willem Dafoe plays that character very often, and so
Yeah,
it was cool to see him play that. But Justin Theroux was great as this like kind of terrible smarmy guy. So I really liked that aspect of his new character.
yeah, yeah. Beetlejuice, good movie. Go see it.
Yeah, go see it. Are we moving on to
I
the uglies or
I think we're moving on. I think
so
we're
Beetlejuice is
pulling a
ugly.
switcheroo.
He's not attractive.
Oh yeah,
You know,
but does Uglies have an Italian Gothic horror segment?
Oh yeah, the whole movie is Italian Gothic horror. I'm really glad you
That
brought
part
that
of
up.
Beetle, yeah, that part
okay.
made me laugh really, really
That part
hard.
was so good.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
And
well,
then when
tell
he's
us
talking
about
in
it.
Spanish at the end.
God.
Okay, okay. Uglies.
So should I watch Beetlejuice?
Yes. I
Watch both of
Watch
actually
them. They're
Beetlejuice.
both amazing.
I
Okay.
think that you would appreciate it.
Morgan brought up the other day. She was like, "This is gonna sound really weird and like it's coming out of nowhere." And I was like, "Uh-oh, what is this?"
Is
And
she
she said,
sexually attracted to Beetlejuice? What?
"Oh,
Not, okay. Not,
no!"
just let's.
That came out of
Isaac, are
nowhere
you?
just now. That came out of nowhere.
No,
Guys,
No.
I'm not.
I'm
What
gonna
a weird
embarrass you at this party, Barry.
Okay, so
So what
anyway,
did she say out of nowhere? That came out of nowhere.
she said, "Now it's not interesting or funny after what you just said." But it just she said, but the way she set it up was funny because I was expecting something like really out there, but instead she goes, "I really want to watch the original Beetlejuice and then watch the new one," and I was like, "Oh, no, yeah, we can We can do that. We just haven't done it. I mean, that was like just a few days ago.
Nice.
But I'm not against watching it. I just haven't. That's how I feel about most movies that exist that y'all talk about.
Sure.
Not
That's fair.
against it. Just haven't haven't gotten there.
Sure.
Movies I have seen though, since we recorded last. Before I talk about uglies, real quick, shout out. So my friend Walker, local filmmaker who I worked with on a short film, was a guest in our last episode. And he and his wife were telling us about Troll 2, which we had never seen. Have y'all seen or heard
I
about?
haven't seen either of those.
Okay, Olivia, are you familiar?
Trolls 2?
Troll
Troll.
Troll.
2.
One troll.
It's like a found footage monster hunt movie.
Nope. Mm-mm.
The first one is Troll 2 is not at all related to the first Troll movie. In fact, it's not in the same universe, it's not the same story. It's a completely different
Like, that
cast
came
and
out in
crew.
1990?
Troll 1 did. When did let's see, when did Troll 2 come out? Oh yeah, 1990. Yeah, sorry. Troll 2 came out in 1990. The reason, and this is what Walker told us, the lore behind this, the reason they named it Troll 2 was because either the studio or the filmmaker thought that nobody would watch it because it was just like a brand new like thing. And so they just straight up named it Troll 2 to make people think that it was the sequel to Troll. There's no trolls in Troll 2. The word troll is never mentioned. It's about goblins. Okay. And
It's about goblins.
it's about goblins. Apparently there's a documentary
goblins.
made about how this movie was made. And the documentary is called The Best Worst Movie Ever Made. And he and his wife were telling us about this, and they were quoting it so much and just like talking about it so much that Morgan and I were like, let's just watch this movie right now. And so we all four of us sat down and watched Troll 2 last week. And truly, it is the best worst movie ever made. I won't get too deep into it because we're running out of time, but Troll 2, if you haven't watched it, if anybody listening hasn't watched it, I highly encourage you. It's on Tubi for free with ads.
It's also on Amazon Prime.
That's an excuse to go on Tubi or Amazon Prime.
If you're rich.
If you're if you're Jeff Bezos, you can watch Troll 2 on Amazon Prime. I would recommend watch it with somebody who you would have fun watching it with. Get like a group of friends or a friend. It makes it is a very fun. It is close to Moonfall in my mind as far as like enjoyable bad movie to watch. But nothing will top Moonfall for me personally. But Troll 2, highly recommend. Really quotable, really good quotes in that. And I'll leave it at that. So shout out Walker for showing us Troll 2. The other movie, me and Morgan and my sister, we watched this together. Uglies on Netflix. This is the newest phenomenon. I'd say newest phenomenon. The book that it's based on, with the same name, came out in
We were in middle school.
2005.
Yeah.
This
quite middle
movie
school.
came out in the year of our Lord 2024.
19 years later, for those who
Now-
are doing the math at home.
Exactly. When did Hunger Games come out? Like the first book.
Ooh.
2008.
28.
Dang,
Yeah.
I was thinking 09.
2008. So Uglies was in that era of juvenile fiction. Everything was just dystopian, and it was just the wildest setups for any kind of like society you can imagine. So like Divergent was also one, like an example, like they just rode that train.
Maze Runner.
Maze Runner. I had never heard of the book Uglies until this movie had come out.
What?
And yeah, I had never heard of it. And I was like, well, what's the premise? I could not believe what the premise was because even in 2005 to like a middle schooler, you think that's a good premise for a story? So for those unfamiliar, Uglies is about it's a dystopian future where everybody at the age of 16 in whatever area it doesn't say where they are in, it's just wherever this is, your parents drop your ugly ass off at this boarding school, and then you have to be ugly until you're 16. As soon as you turn 16, they uh, put you through the Captain America gas chamber, and you get this plastic surgery to just be like really hot, and then you don't like you're set for life because then you can go off to the big neon city, and you don't have to work apparently. You can just kind of hang out and be hot with all the other hot people because there's no ugly people around. They don't allow the uglies into where the sexies are, okay? And there's way more that I can get into with the plot setup, but the movie itself, we were like 40 minutes into the movie, and at one point I just said, things are just happening. That was the best way I could describe the pacing and the plot of this movie.
As things happen in movies.
But it's
Things
like,
happen.
I couldn't think of a better way to describe it, and I thought about it more afterward. I think this, okay, so like a good storytelling, at least like in a fictional sense, is it is this thing happens, but then this thing happens.
Sure.
But then this thing, you know what I mean? Like it's like
As opposed to this thing happens
and then this thing happens,
yeah.
and that's uglies. It's just like
Yeah.
they do something and then they're like, next scene, and then they're like, okay, so we did this. Next scene now, and you're like, there's no stakes. It feels like people get killed, and it still feels like there's no stakes. It still feels like nothing really matters. Nothing's important. In the worst, not the worst part. Okay, there's many worse parts of this. The fact that the leads are Joey King of Kissing Booth fame and The Conjuring fame. I will, to put some respect on her name.
Yeah.
And Chase Stokes of, oh my gosh, what's the show he was in?
Outer Banks.
Outer Banks fame.
Who's objectively hot because everyone in that show is hot.
It's so funny. It's so funny because it shows like these supposed to be teenagers, of course they're in their mid to late 20s, and they're like, oh my gosh, I hate being ugly. I look so terrible. And it's like,
so how do they die? Do they like get gunned down in the street or something? Like
Chase Stokes, spoiler alert for anybody who cares, which should be no one. He snaps somebody's neck at one point because he does get turned into like a super soldier. He gets like indoctrinated into, Laverne Cox plays like the,
oh, nice.
Plays like not a dictator, but she's like in charge of the program that makes people hot. Sure. And then it comes out that like you find the big plot twist is that when you go through this plastic surgery, it puts these lesions on your brain that makes you, it's almost like it makes you like you're permanently on drugs. So you're just like permanently on ecstasy, and you're just like, what? Everything's great, and you don't care about the uglies anymore. And but then he gets like, they try to use him to, because he and Joey King were like best friends when they were uglies. They try to like brainwash him to convince her to go find like the rebels that like live outside the city or whatever. And so they put him into the super soldier, cage again. And now he's like even more brainwashed. But then there's these scientists who defected from the program years ago, and they're like, we can cure it. We can cure the brain damage that the sexies got, Anyway, we have 2 minutes left on this podcast. Anything else you want to add about the ugly minutes?
I just want to say that Chase Stokes is 32 years old.
Yeah. Joey King is 25.
He's older than us.
He's older than us. This, apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, film wrapped production in December of 2021. So,
yes, and this movie has been in development hell for like 10 or 15 years.
I'm sure
like, they were supposed to make this movie.
Because it was a huge
yes.
series, like book series. It was massive. I've never read it because when I was in middle school, it was always checked out. I could never get to it for good reason. So it's probably best I didn't. It would probably give me more body image issues than I already had at 12 years old. So it was probably best that I didn't. So,
but if watching it as an adult, the only issues it'll give you is to be like, why did I just spend an hour 40? What? Like, that was crazy that I did that to myself just now. It wasn't at Moonfall or Troll 2 level of like good, bad. It was entertaining at point because I was watching it with Morgan and my sister.
Sure.
Like, we were able to rag on it a little bit and dunk on it. But like, we got to the point where I was like, things are just they're still happening. Things are, and it's like, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All I gotta say is Joey King has got.
I accidentally hit stop
Isaac, what
record.
did you say?
I accidentally hit stop record. That's my bad.
Uh, all I gotta say is Joey King's got some work to do because you look at her Kissing Booth co-star Jacob Elordi,
Oh,
who has
he's
had
been-
the craziest glow up in the last like
Yeah.
three years, and that guy knows how to choose projects, and Joey King does not know how to choose projects.
Look,
Which I
Joey
really hate for her.
Joey King's just getting the bag. All right. Like
Hey, and I
there-
respect it.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in the Uglies. We also watched The Family Affair, which is another. It was her and Zac Efron and
How was that?
Nicole.
Nicole Kidman.
Not good. Yeah,
Okay.
it was like a boring bad though. It was like, oh my gosh, like Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman. You really in
should
this
be
right
good.
now? Yeah. Her Bullet Train was good. Joe King was in that.
I could not stand her in Bullet Train. I can't stand. I think that's a bad movie, but
Okay.
like part of the reason, like I think she is part of the reason it's bad.
She gets a bad rap, I
Unfortunately.
think. I think she gets handed bad writing. I think
Yeah.
because like if you watch The Conjuring, which is one of my
You gotta
all-time
watch.
favorite
You gotta
movies-
watch her Bullet Train performance though. It's not
Okay,
just.
I
the
believe
writing.
you. I believe
Promise.
you. I
Yeah.
believe you.
I'm trying
But,
to
like-
give credit to her, like where it's due.
Yeah.
Like do y'all know she played Gypsy Rose?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Did
she
y'all
was-
see that?
She was good, right?
I heard she was really good.
Yeah.
I think she was nominated for
She's nominated
an
for something.
Emmy or a Golden
Yeah.
Globe.
She was really good in
Credit where
Yeah.
credit is due.
Ramona and Beezus was like kind of one of her biggest roles as a young kid. And then if I'm telling you, if you haven't watched The Conjuring lately, the first Conjuring movie,
That's
one
probably
of
what
the
she's
daughters.
best in.
she's so good. Like it is like, and how old was she in that? It was in 2013. She's 25 now. I mean, she was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want the best for her, Joey.
Yeah.
Let's work on your I don't know what your agent
Your
is doing.
CV.
Yeah, but they need
Yeah.
Give me a call,
Maybe
Joey.
she needs a better agent.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think she does. Anyway,
I don't know someone. Call me.
I do love the Kissing Booth movies, unironically. They're bad, but we have watched them multiple times.
great.
That's a fun watch. Okay.
I don't know what we're talking about next. I'm gonna see I'm gonna see the Wild Robot this weekend. What's on the books for you guys?
Maybe Beetlejuice.
Yeah, you'll have to report back.
I would like to see the Wild Robot this weekend. Honestly, the next 4 weekends I have something going on, so I don't know how much movie time I'll be having.
You could do some streaming.
but
You could watch some older ones on like weeknights or
yeah,
something.
yeah, I'll
Movie
probably try to do some movie time. But anyway, I would like to watch the Wild Robot. I might go watch that Thursday night because I do have some time Thursday. So
Perfect.
anyway,
Cool. Well, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Give us 5 stars if you like our podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a lot.
And on YouTube, we're on YouTube again now. So
ayo.
leave a like and a comment. I don't think subscribing matters as much. YouTube is more algorithm driven now. But if you want to,
Just watch our
subscribe.
videos. Put them on,
watch 'em.
mute them. We don't care.
well, you don't.
That's
Well,
right.
you can't.
Well-
you can listen to them on YouTube. You don't have to.
That'd
mute
be
them,
true.
cool.
but you.
If you're one of the 7 premium members,
I'm one of them.
like Walter.
If YouTube Premium has 1 subscriber, it's me.
If they have 0, Walter has died.
I've died.
Our art is by Macy Lemus. Our theme music is by Corden Jocks. They're both Little Rock artists. Go check them out. They're awesome. And we will see y'all on the flippity flip. Bye.